everyone, Lucamus Prime here. So it is time for the next episode of my series, Old is Better Than New. Now, as promised on my first ever episode of this series, which of course was talking about Star Wars movies, I also said I'd cover other topics related to Star Wars where I think old is better than new. And this one is probably for me a big example when it comes, of course, to another type of media in Star Wars, not films, but this time things, of course, which we as gamers play. And this topic where I'm going to cover why I think old is better than new for Star Wars is none other than, of course, Star Wars video games on many different consoles, which I'm going to be covering. So, now, let's go through, of course, my childhood, because a lot of these games I'm going to be talking about are things I played when I was a kid, and that still hold huge value to me to this day, and why I personally think they're better than today's games for Star Wars. So, when I was a little kid, and I played on a PC when it comes to gaming, I would dabble into, who of course was a family-friendly side of Star Wars gaming, and that was, of course, the very first game of LEGO Star Wars, which of course was LEGO Star Wars, the video game. This game, I have tons of fond memories of playing when I was a little kid on PC, and I, of course, got it the PS2 so I can relive those happy memories, and I'm definitely really excited to do that. It would then also be followed by LEGO Star Wars 2, which covered the original trilogy, because the first game covered the prequels. And I definitely loved the original trilogy game. It was definitely a really great game, and I loved getting to go through, of course, the original trilogy in LEGO form. And then after that as well, we get to, as well, a game which covers pretty much all 6 of the original films, and that, of course, is LEGO Complete Saga, which I've also got on PS3. Again, lots of fun memories playing this, absolutely. And then after this as well, LEGO would also as well be able to adapt not just films into LEGO form, but also shows too. And that, of course, led to LEGO Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars, which for me is a game which I think is really underrated, and it's definitely for me a massive example of a game that's better than today's games, in my opinion, because of the amazing gameplay, the detail, and the way it adapts for the season of The Clone Wars and the film and Attack of the Clones. I think it does a really great job at it, in my opinion. And I think it holds up fantastically, and I can't wait to go down memory lane and replay this on PS3, absolutely. Definitely a really great game. And I really hope it gets a sequel which covers, of course, the other seasons of the show. I really hope so. Maybe in a LEGO Rebels game too. And LEGO wasn't the only Star Wars things I delved into when it comes to playing games, because if you guys are into shooting video games, then I would definitely strongly recommend the 2 games of Star Wars Battlefront. No, not the EA versions, absolutely not. I'm going to get into those in why I think old is better than new for this, but these games are my childhood. Definitely really awesome shooter games where you play lots of characters, both good guys and bad guys. It's just brilliant, in my opinion, these games. Just really awesome. Battlefront 2 is probably my favourite out of them. And it's definitely a massive example of a game which I think holds up phenomenally, with a great set of characters to play as, you know, both good guys and bad guys. Just incredible, in my opinion. So, if you guys want to play a really good shooting game, I'd recommend these strongly, absolutely. And also as well, Star Wars back in the old days when it comes to gaming was also as well not afraid to tell stories which tied into the films too as well. Because also as well on PS2, as well, they also, and also on other consoles too at the time, they also released Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which ties into Attack of the Clones, and it's a story about Jango Fett. And I definitely think it's a really great game which also holds up really well as well. Like, it's just incredible how well it holds up. And of course, you got some more Martian reprising as well as Jango Fett in this game. Like, what can you ever have than that? Which is amazing, isn't it? So it's going to remember Lena playing this too as well, because I remember playing it on PC when I was a kid. It's a really good game in my opinion. Also, it's all games which are based on the films, and one of the examples, like I can say when it comes to all games, is the Revenge of Sith game. Definitely a really great game. My childhood right there, which I played on PC when I was a little kid. I don't remember much of it because like I said, I was a little kid when I played this, but I'm hoping to of course, one day relive these happy memories by playing this game, absolutely. And Star Wars as well was also not afraid to also as well be a guest franchise in other games too, because it also as well appeared via guest characters in the Soul Calibur franchise, and Star Wars, of course, appeared as guest characters in Soul Calibur 4. As you see here, based on the cover of this, on the top, yes, you do indeed play as Darth Vader, which is definitely really awesome, which really makes me happy because he's my favourite Star Wars character of all time, my favourite villain of all time as well. And you can also play as Yoda and also his apprentice Starkiller, which is definitely really awesome. And speaking of Starkiller, I also as well definitely love how Star Wars in the old days for gaming was also not afraid to include non-canon stuff to the films. And that's why I absolutely love the two games of The Force Unleashed. These games are also part of my childhood. In my opinion, they're absolutely awesome, and they hold up really well with great graphics. And Starkiller is also definitely my favourite non-canon character in the franchise as well. I love Starkiller. He's awesome. And the story behind these is absolutely amazing, in my opinion. If you guys have not played these, I strongly recommend them because they're absolutely awesome, in my opinion. Just brilliant games, absolutely. Games that aren't afraid to go against canon, and they're just brilliant, in my opinion. Like, if you guys have the console which these games are on, then please play them because they're awesome, in my opinion. And they hold up really well. That's the beauty of old games, because they're so good and they tell great stories and they're very entertaining to play, they hold up phenomenally, which I think is amazing. But sadly, however, when it comes, of course, to recent games, I think that the dark times came with Star Wars video games. So, for example, I've already talked about how great the old LEGO Star Wars games were, but I'd say the weakest one, in my opinion, was the LEGO Force Awakens game, for several reasons being, one, it's based on a film that I hate, being Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, even though I just call it The Farce Awakens, because in my opinion, it's not a Star Wars movie, it's just Star Wars in name only. So that doesn't really help, it's based on a film that I hate. And also, as well, the gameplay, in my opinion, is a bit of a downgrade compared to the absolutely amazing gameplay of the older LEGO Star Wars games, in my opinion. And most characters in the game are characters I don't even care about, which is very annoying. But I did thought it was worth, like, how we got Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher, may she rest in peace, back as Han and Leia, which is definitely a massive surprise, especially for Harrison Ford, since I know those two don't really tend to return and to do voice work for their characters, really. I know Carrie Fisher did it for Robot Chicken at one point, which was pretty awesome, but I never thought she'd do it for a LEGO game. Like, wow. And sadly, that was her last time playing Leia before she passed away when it comes to release date order, because obviously, of course, her final films were released after she died. Rest in peace, Carrie. And it was definitely awesome to see Harrison Ford do a voice too, especially because he wanted Han Solo to get killed off. I didn't think he'd be able to reprise his role for a LEGO game, but he did, which is pretty awesome. And I did also as well like how it included missions which bridge the gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, really. So at least it answered questions that the film didn't answer for us. So that's something, really. It's so sad how a LEGO game is better than the film it's based on. That's just really sad, really. But the game as a whole is not that good, in my opinion. And also, the open worlds are nowhere near as lively as the open worlds or the hub worlds, whatever you want to call them, in the previous games, either, in my opinion. Then when it comes to Star Wars' shooter-style video games, they also as well did reboots for the Battlefront franchise, and it was EA that made this. And they did two of them in 2015 and 2017. I have played both of them on Xbox One, and unfortunately, when I compare them to the two games I have on PS2 for the Star Wars Battlefront games, like, these two, in my opinion, are just so superior in comparison, and they're both old games. Like, what happened? Because, I don't know what it is, but I don't like how in the first game there's barely any characters from the franchise you can play as. It's just characters from the original trilogy, so, like, no prequel trilogy characters or anything like that, which I think is disappointing. And you can only play as two lightsaber characters, being Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, which I think is ridiculous, in my opinion. Like, it's a Star Wars game, and you can only play as two characters with lightsabers. Come on. That's pretty ridiculous. I also don't feel the gameplay is also very slow, too. Because what I appreciate about the old games is the characters are much faster, and it's much more fun in that sense. But in both EA games, the characters are very slow, in my opinion. So, while the games have great graphics, don't get me wrong, and I appreciate that several actors from the films reprise their roles, the games, in my opinion, are just so downgraded and disappointing compared to the amazing games from the early 2000s, Star Wars Battlefront. So, like, yeah, I really don't know what happened at all. And while I appreciate that the second game did feature more characters, especially ones from the prequels, which I really appreciated, some of the first game definitely missed. The second game was still, in my opinion, disappointing. I mean, it did also, unfortunately, include characters from the sequel Trashology, which annoyed me a lot. And when I compare the two games as well to another EA franchise being Dead Space, I've noticed that these Star Wars Battlefront games play pretty much almost the same way as Dead Space, just without the horror and just featuring Star Wars characters. So that is just really appalling how it's literally just a carbon copy of Dead Space, just lacking the horror, really. So that's just very appalling. Like, it's just very appalling how the old games are so much better. And speaking of the old games as well, for some reason, they also as well remastered the 2 old Battlefront games for, like, 9th and 8th generation consoles or whatever. And unfortunately, those remasters were played with glitches. So that really breaks my heart. And I was not interested in playing those remasters anyway because I've already got one PS2, so I don't need to play them on a different console, no. And, I mean, I'm up for, like, remastering a classic if you're going to do it right, but come on, please don't mess with a classic. So I was really disappointed about that. There's even been talks of them as well wanting to remaster the Knights of the Old Republic games as well. I've not played those games yet, but I really do want to play them, the original versions, not any particular remaster or remake, no. Because I'm pretty sure that today, because it was Battlefront remasters, it's probably going to go horribly wrong. So, if I ever get a chance to play the old Knights of the Old Republic games, I'll definitely play those because I've heard great things about those games. Many Star Wars fans regard them as the best Star Wars game of all time, so yeah, I wonder what I'll think of them. If you guys have played those games, let me know what you guys think of them, and I'll see if I can play them one day, hopefully. When it comes to the LEGO part of the franchise, though, thankfully, of course, LEGO did redeem themselves with LEGO Star Wars with LEGO Skywalker Saga. That game, in my opinion, is much better than LEGO Force Awakens, in my opinion. Much better, but still, in my opinion, doesn't come close to the older LEGO Star Wars games, in my opinion, I'll say that. Because I think the LEGO Star Wars games before LEGO Force Awakens are just very iconic and memorable and lots of fun, in my opinion. And then also in 2019, we also as well got Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I played on Xbox One and I finished its story mode. It's a good game in my opinion, but even that doesn't come close to the old games either in my opinion. Because while it has great gameplay and great graphics, don't get me wrong, and good characters, it still in my opinion doesn't come close to the old games in my opinion. I just, personally, the old games are just so iconic with great characters, great stories, and great messages as well for the audience as well. Just like how the old films had as well, absolutely. But I feel like recently they've just gone downhill. And of course, as well, they did also do a sequel to Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I've yet to play, but I will probably play it one day because I do plan to get Fallen Order on PS5 so I can play it to remaster, see what that's like, and compare it to the older version on 8th generation consoles. And then I'll probably delve into a sequel, see what I think of that. But if you guys have played it, let me know what you guys think of it in the comments if you played Jedi Survivor. I'd love to hear what you guys think of it. As for any other recent Star Wars games, personally, guys, I don't care anymore. Because when it comes to Star Wars as a whole, I personally no longer care for a franchise when it comes to films or the shows. And even as well, video games, for that matter. For example, I have no interest in playing Star Wars or Squadrons or Outlaws. I am not interested in playing those. Or Remaster Battlefront, for that matter, no chance. I'll stick to the old games, absolutely. And I'll also delve into replaying Fallen Order on PS5. And one day I might also play Survivor, see what I think of that too as well. But nevertheless, I still stand by my statement that in my opinion, Star Wars games are better in the old. And I can't wait to really what's happened memories of playing them on PS2, PS3, whatever. So it's going to be really fun, absolutely, playing the old games. And one day I'll probably post reviews for them as well, absolutely. Maybe even post a ranking video for LEGO Star Wars games too, as well. Probably definitely be lots of fun to do. So guys, this is me of course doing the next episode of Old is Better Than New, where I was saying why, in my opinion, all Star Wars games are better than new, in my opinion. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to vote in the comments what you guys think of all Star Wars video games and new ones. Do you think all is better than new? Let me think in the comments below. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe for movies to come in the future. And may the Force be with you always.